This is Ansells Brewery where I worked. Here was the boiler house. Over there was the brewery where the beer was brewed. And further over, the tall building is where the beer was put into kegs. I used to work here as a maintenance fitter with over 1,000 others until the brewery closed down in 1981. I used to be a shop steward here in the Transport and General Workers Union, and the job was fairly well paid, such that it offered some security, and I worked here for 15 years. Many of the other workers, they used to be able to afford mortgages and cars because the job offered some security until the hateful time in 1981. We used to be able to have union meetings virtually when we wanted them. The facilities were there for us to have them. There was a large representation of shop stewards whereby the management, if they wanted changes made in any practices, would always approach us, and we'd go through negotiations in order to implement any changes to come about. Also, the level of wages was higher in Ansells than what in many of the sweatshops it is today. One of the differences with today is when anybody started at Ansells, that they always came in on the rates there, that the level of wages they would earn would actually be the same as other workers in the brewery. One of the things to stop any idea that the young workers would be able to bring up problems that they came across. One of the things we used to do in the maintenance was for the shop steward to actually go around the brewery, showing the new worker the job, what it involved, and really giving them an idea of the layout of the place, so that they then felt that as far as the union was concerned, that they would be able to approach the shop steward straight away. As far as health and safety went in Ansells, our ability to make the job safe really depended on our union organisation, and we were able to make changes which would make the job safer. Because of that, there were health and safety representatives who were the shop stewards, actually twinned up as the health and safety representatives, and would be able to approach the management at any time on any particular instance that we considered to be contrary to the health and safety. One of the things that didn't happen really was the question of bringing on young employers into apprentices position within the maintenance. Obviously, the majority of the workforce was in the brewing, and because the jobs were secure, it meant that there was a level of employment there, which meant that a lot of the workers had been there for some years. In 1981, the management wanted redundancies and to make changes in working conditions and practices, and wanted to be able to secure this without any trouble at all. Partly it was due, I think, to the strength of the trade union organisation, that they wanted to try to attack us, to undermine that organisation. And without getting an agreement, they implemented a 4-day week, whereby the workforce, because there was a strong union organisation here, the workforce walked out, which was then the start of a 5.5-month strike. The strike had the official backing of the Transport and General Workers Union, and we were extremely confident in being able to stop the management offensive on us, because we had a strong organisation, one which had been built up over a number of years. Everybody was in the union, even in the craft union, in the craft departments were in the T&G, and so we're extremely confident of winning the dispute. So then it meant that we had to decide upon how we would actually fight the strike in order to win it. And we went out and picketed other depots within the area. What of course we needed to do was to picket the other main breweries to stop supplies getting into the area, and this unfortunately we failed to do. We were extremely confident though of actually winning the dispute. The dispute was extremely active. 80% of the strikers were actually involved in the strike in picketing, and we used to picket the pubs in the areas to stop them getting supplies. And as I say, virtually everyone involved in the strike was doing that. There was a strike committee that was elected to involve in running the strike and take decisions about the direction of strike. There was also fairly frequently mass meetings to discuss what was going on in the strike and how we should pursue things. This is the gate, for instance, where a lot of the picketing went on during that strike. One of the failings really was in that the strike was made official by the Transport and General Workers Union, which was very good, but when we went out to actually picket another brewery, we were then told that the strike wasn't official in that particular area, that we were doing it unofficially. And really the support that we got wasn't sufficient from the union, in the sense of backing it up with actually arguing with other workers the need to actually support the strike. Of course, I mean, the level of confidence in the brewery, which was extremely good. We had a belief in the strength of our organisation, which was good. But of course, it also depended upon our ability to go out to other plants to actually picket and argue our case, and to get other workers to support us. And unfortunately, the level of confidence wasn't as high in other places as it was with us. Which was one of the problems. Of course, I would say that one of the main failings was really our reluctance to actually go out, and once we'd gone out and strike, to realise we could not win it locally, but actually go out and take it further in actually getting support in terms of other solidarity action from other workers in the particular group that Ansells belonged to. And that's one thing that we failed to do. After being out for 4 months, we at last decided to picket one of the main breweries, but by then the workforce was weakened. And whereas previously, where the company had tried to have a ballot of the workforce in order to get them back to work, and the workforce believed that it was their decision to what they would do, and they wouldn't hold a ballot, that they had to take the collective decision, and the ballot forms were handed back into the stewards. This time, after the 4 months, the union was able to hold a ballot saying that the brewery was going to close down, and either we accept the company's proposals or vote to continue the dispute despite the brewery being closed down. It meant a weakening of the workforce even further, and eventually the company reopened a couple of warehouses where about 200 men were taken back, and the rest of the 1,000 were then redundant and on the dole. The company was they wanted to close down some production within allied breweries, and were looking to close down a brewery. And so their attitude of actually making an attack on the Ansells workforce became clear just a few weeks later, after the strike began, when they announced the closure of the of the brewery, and so it was clearly a case that they were looking to close Ansells down previously, that this was part of their strategy to do so. The brewery wasn't closed down because of the strike, but rather because the management went about attacking the workforce in order to provoke such a situation where they'd make the closing down of the brewery a lot easier. There was a great deal of anger about it. People felt that they had been let down by the trade unions and by the trade union leadership, and certainly there was a belief that it still really couldn't be closed down, that somehow it would open back up again. Of course these were false hopes, because a company the size of Allied Breweries wouldn't do such a thing, and it would be part of their strategy overall. And I think the idea of such a solid dispute, because we had meetings even 4 and 5 months into the dispute, mass meetings whereby the strikers had decided to continue the dispute overwhelmingly. And there was then, of course, the realisation, the money that they'd got from the company for severing their employment, and the future of looking on the dole. People then began to look around them and see the level of unemployment there was around the place, and really that the prospects of getting work would be extremely slight. The management started off with wanting 90 redundancies, and as far as we were concerned then, that it wasn't the case that those redundancies should be accepted, because it meant that they weren't our jobs to sell, and they were for other people. We were only holding the jobs, and others would be able to come into the jobs, and therefore we couldn't afford to let other people down by selling the 90 jobs. And when they closed the brewery down during the dispute, we felt even more so that we just couldn't lose it, because of the need to keep jobs open for everybody. I mean, with the situation with unemployment, even more so as the case. The management started off with wanting 90 redundancies, and as far as we were concerned then, that it wasn't the case that those redundancies should be accepted, because it meant that they weren't our jobs to sell, and they were for other people. We were only holding the jobs, and others would be able to come into the jobs, and therefore we couldn't afford to let other people down by selling the 90 jobs. And when they closed the brewery down during the dispute, we felt even more so that we just couldn't lose it, because of the need to keep jobs open for everybody. I mean, with the situation with unemployment, even more so as the case.
How do you feel about the prospects that face, I mean, particularly young people, when they look around for a job at 16, 17? How do you feel about that?
One of the problems is that the job security that there was at Ansells isn't about now. The security of having a full-time job that really people are faced with the prospect of union organisation being really cut away, where in firms they're looking for non-unions in companies, or for unions really to work with the management in no strike deals. And really it means that the prospects at the particular moment aren't very good for young people in that sense. That one of the reasons why Ansells was really quite a good paid job, why it offered some security, was because of the strength of the union organisation, the collective strength of the workforce, and without that, the employers are able to really undercut on wages and conditions. Today, many of the jobs that are coming available today are non-unionised jobs, which means that for many of the young workers, actually, they don't necessarily feel that collective spirit, because one of the things the employers realise is that what they have to stress is how it is the individual that counts and how they can look after the individual. Whereas in actual fact, that your pay, your conditions will only be improved by looking to the rest of the workers around you to actually get the support of them and taking up issues, everyone together, acting together. And that is the way that really that wages and better conditions are actually fought for and won.